And here we go. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's January 30th, 2024. This is Up North News Radio. I'm Pat Kreitlow up in Chippewa Falls here on Lake Wissota. And our radio show gets started at about 6:06, right after news and commercials across the Civic Media Radio Network. Coming up this morning, we'll talk about a couple of different efforts to get things done in Congress on a bipartisan fashion. And some people really do not like that. There's work on a bipartisan plan to increase security at the border with Mexico. There's another plan on taxes and tax cuts. And there are Republicans in both issues who are very unhappy that things are actually being done now rather than letting things just fester until the presidential election. And who knows how far beyond. We'll talk a bit about that. It is Tuesday, so we'll talk to Sharita Booker and Christina Laurie. Sharita Booker posts all of our most popular stories on Up North News social media sites. Christina Laurie puts together our newsletter, and they'll talk about the things that you've been reading and clicking on and watching. Then in our second hour, we're going to talk to Chippewa County farm management educator Jerry Clark. He's getting an award, a well-deserved award, from the University of Wisconsin as the recipient of this year's Distinguished Teaching Award. So he'll tell us about the work that he does helping farmers throughout the state with crop rotation, markets, and new technologies that all come together to make Wisconsin agriculture a big player in global trade and in family farm success. We will also talk about sports and the forecast, and Chad Holmes from Bull Falls Radio will preview his 8 o'clock show on Bull Falls Radio, part of the Civic Media Radio Network. So all that and more coming up in just about 3.5 minutes. We'll see you soon.
Wanted to. And then number two, that means he had to force a lot of tough shots. That's what our defense has to be.
Giannis Antetokounmpo named the NBA's Eastern Conference Player of the Week. It's the second time this season and the 23rd time in his career. Baseball, the Brewers' new first baseman, Rhys Hoskins, spoke to reporters about leaving the Phillies in free agency and why he thought the Brewers might offer him a contract.
Milwaukee was always a great paper fit. I've talked to a bunch of guys either on the team or that have played there in the past. It just fit even more so with, the type of culture that they have and what I'm trying to accomplish.
That's Brewers' first baseman, Rhys Hoskins. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
It is going to be cloudy and drizzly with a few flurries possible at times here throughout the day today. Another dreary one with a high of 38. The wind northwest at 5 to 15. Gradual clearing tonight, 32. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and a bit warmer with a high right around 43. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 33.
The Civic Media Network of radio stations across Wisconsin. It's your hometown radio. Refreshed. Your home for the Devil's Advocates. Weekday afternoons from 4 until 6 on The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM. WAUK. UK.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on this Tuesday morning, January 30th. Another beautiful day to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, through the Civic Media app, our social media video feeds, or by podcast. We appreciate you taking us along to get your day going. I've got a question for you. Can we all just stop being so weird about Taylor Swift for a little while here? I mean, look, we're going to fuss over any celebrity singer who's, dating a football player in this instance, but it's getting a little out of hand. Let the couple be, let the game unfold. We don't need to start culture wars or something like that over them. Let's just take it down a notch. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you want to tell me about the cultural implications of Tay-Tay up in the skybox. If so, hey, we've got a phone number here. You can use it, 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. Call it, text it, use the app if you like. Use your email machine, radio@upnorthnewswi.com, or put a comment on Facebook. We are on all kinds of Facebook pages where you can watch what we're doing here. Civic Media, Up North News, 93.5 The Tap out of Chippewa Falls, Bull Falls Radio out of Wausau, their Facebook page there. So you can follow along by video if you can't be near your favorite Civic Media station. And by the way, if it goes the other way, if you're watching us on Facebook and you just haven't really tuned in to find your closest Civic Media station, go fix that. Go to civicmedia.us. You'll find a map of all the stations around Wisconsin, the news talk ones and the music ones, and all the many shows that you can hear on air, online, and on demand. And you can check out what I do with the rest of my team over at UpNorthNewsWI.com. Two of my teammates will be along in this half hour. Sharita Booker, our social media manager. We'll talk about the things that you've been clicking on our social media posts. And Christina Laurie puts together our morning newsletter, and she shares some of the stories that she's been working on lately and will be working on in the future. It is another mild, unseasonably warm day across Wisconsin, and it's going to stay that way. Probably going to see record high temperatures tomorrow as warm air continues moving into the upper Midwest. Here's how it looks right now. I've got, there they are. Lake Wissota is at 38 degrees, and just weird to say that on January 30th. Hayward is at 34, Park Falls 32, Wausau 35, Green Bay's at 34, La Crosse reporting 39 degrees right now, Wisconsin Rapids 35, Oshkosh 37, Madison 37, and it is 34 degrees right now in beautiful Waukesha, which is where we would find one Greg Bach, who is wrestling with computers and technology.
Oh, I won.
He's no longer sports update here. Greg Bach has won over technology. Congratulations,
And I'd
sir.
like to thank Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm rough. It probably sounds that way. You're like, hey, the guy's got glasses on. He's got a little flannel thing going. He sounds like a guy that's been up most of the night, and you'd be right. But today is one of those special days where men of a certain age have to get certain things done, poking and prodding and things like that.
Did you have to drink the liquid?
Over in the kitchen, there's an empty pitcher and a whole bunch of Gatorade and an empty container of Miralax, and yeah, it's gonna be one of those days. But
You're doing the good work, though.
I'm doing the right. That's what I keep hearing, and I turn to not only my own wife, the doctor, who keeps saying this is the right thing. We got to keep you healthy, but also Dr. Lyerly. I figure if they can talk about all these things that used to be embarrassing for women to talk about, then yeah, we can mention that today is a colonoscopy day. So I'm hoping that tomorrow I will report to you that all is right with the world as it was 10 years ago, and maybe we don't have to do this for another 10 years, which would be kind of nice. I'm sure I have 5, but hey, go ahead.
As a man who's doing what he's supposed to be doing, I have something for you right now.
Well, reserve some for the foundlings.
Ah, darn it.
As it should always be. The foundlings are the future. This is the way.
There it is. Got it. This is the way. That's all I wanted to do. Just a stupid
way.
Mandalorian clip, and I couldn't get it for you.
Like I said, we're wrestling with technology today, and that's just I don't have a problem with that. So, another thing that we're going to get into, and by the way, I'm pretty close to dehydrated, so you're going to notice extra pauses for sips of water today. So I'll be throwing questions at you randomly, like, Greg, is it too soon to start reminding people about maybe thinking about a Valentine's Day gift?
Oh, and let me say something as you're sipping your water.
Mm-hmm.
Much like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, if you don't like Valentine's Day, fine. I don't have a problem with that. But don't yuck other people's yum, because some people like to go all out. Some people like to do some flowers. Some people like to do dinner. Some people like to do nothing. But like, Valentine's Day is just a Hallmark holiday. Well, maybe, yeah, but they're all Hallmark holidays at this point. So if someone likes to do something, just let them do that.
Yeah, we're very much in a live and let live kind of mindset here, because it just seems like lately, you can define lately however you want, but it went from being sarcastic, funny to just now you're just being a jerk, with the way that you pile onto things. And so we always appreciate a good laugh, but at some point you feel like you're piling on, whatever the case may be. And Valentine's Day is another good example of that. Let the people be who want to enjoy it, have fun with it. I saw an article here about, gifts that you can get for under $50 for Valentine's Day. It's on a whole bunch of Wisconsin news sites this morning. Yeah. And that was my first reminder of, oh yeah, I do have to think about that, don't I? So
do you know it's a great one you can get your wife?
What?
You can make her a Funko Pop doll, like make her into one.
A what?
A Funko Pop doll. You know what a Funko Pop doll is?
I don't think I do. No.
They're just little dolls that have huge heads and weird eyes, and they make them for different movies and TV shows, comic books. There's hundreds of them, but you can get one custom made that resembles your partner. Yeah.
Okay. It's got to go better than my attempt at the Christmas gift, the glow tennis shoes that didn't light up after all. So I'm willing to try something else at this point, because right now gift giving is not my forte lately. Do you get you go like 2 or 3 gifts and you realize you're just not hitting the mark, and then you start to feel the pressure. You don't want to go too expensive, but you also realize I got to step this up a bit. So,
well, my wife always gives like lists, and they're very utilitarian, but they're still nice. Mm-hmm. And I always want to go outside the list.
Yes. Use the list as a guide, and say, hey, this might work.
Throughout the year, remember things they talk about.
Yeah.
And just, here, they're like, just throw away nothings. Like, oh, I like this thing. And then
that's how I got the light up shoe idea. I just, should have actually bought shoes that lit up. So anyway, we may talk about these Valentine's gifts coming up in just a bit. But first I want to tell you that starting tomorrow for the next 3 days, we're going to have a very informative section in our 7 o'clock, the first half hour of our 7 a.m. hour, with the 3 candidates running in the Democratic primary for the 3rd Congressional District. We have State Representative Katrina Shanklin on tomorrow at 7:05. We have Eau Claire business owner Rebecca Cook on Thursday at 7:05, and we have Eric Wilson on Friday at 7:05. So each of the next 3 mornings, we're going to have 3 people who are looking to unseat Republican Derek Van Orden. Now, the Democratic primary is in August, so there's still plenty of time for things to change in the race. But these are the 3 candidates looking for Democratic voters right now in that 3rd Congressional District. So we hope that you tune in and are a part of that. Greg, I'm reminded from Roger, he's chimed in on Facebook. 5 years ago, we had a polar vortex. Many places had wind chills 50 to 60 below zero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I probably could have lived without that reminder, Roger. But no, it's nice to be reminded that that's what winter can be like here.
Roger, I mean this with all due respect. When you said that, I was like checking something else on the live. I was like, and nope, you're just bringing it up. Thanks, buddy.
Just reminding us that, hey, enjoy this. If enjoy is what you want to do, other people who'd like to be ice fishing or cross-country skiing, I understand. But those same people would also not like it to be 50 or 60 below either. So
I'd like for the world not to be on fire.
Yeah, all of those things would be good.
Yeah.
But here we are, coming off a really warm year and coming off a climate that is doing wacky things like setting record highs, as we're going to find out today and over the next day or so here. Unpacking the news now at 6:17, Minnesota Congressman Dean Phillips is asking the Wisconsin Supreme Court to order that he be put on the April presidential primary ballot. Phillips argues that his request to be put on the ballot was illegally ignored by the State Elections Commission and the Wisconsin Presidential Preference Selection Committee, which is made up of Republican and Democratic leaders who bring forward names for the ballot. The justices are giving the Selection Committee and the State Elections Commission until tomorrow to respond. And then let's check one sports note here. A great matchup last night in Denver. 2 recent champions going at it, the Nuggets and the Bucks. Doc Rivers' first game as coaching from the sidelines for the Bucks, and he said he saw the same thing coaching as he did watching from his couch. He sees a talented Milwaukee team that just needs a little more time and a little more work to take shape. The Bucks lost to the Nuggets in Denver last night, 113 to 107, but both teams put on a good performance. Giannis had 29 points and 12 rebounds for the Bucks. The Bucks are part of a 5-game road trip now, their longest of the season. Their next game will be in Portland. The return of Dame Lillard, who returns to face his former team after spending 11 seasons with the Portland Trail Blazers. You can catch the Bucks games on Civic Media stations in Richland Center, in Oshkosh, Amory, Racine, and Park Falls. Head over to civicmedia.us to learn much more about that. In the college men's basketball rankings, the Badgers jumped all the way up from number 13 to number 6 in the country. After that win over Michigan State last Friday night, they next play at Nebraska on Thursday. We'll unpack more of the news coming up in just a bit, wherever you're listening across Wisconsin on this Tuesday morning. When you're here, you're up north, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network.
The Shaw, WAUK.
Robert Hack Diamonds pays cash for your unwanted gold, silver, and even diamonds. That's right. Robert Hack Diamonds wants to make you an offer on your gold, silver, and diamonds. The process is very simple. No appointment needed. Just come on in, sit down in a nice, relaxed atmosphere, and the staff of Robert Hack Diamonds will evaluate your unwanted gold, silver, and diamonds and make you an offer on the spot. Then you can decide if you want a deal or no deal. Robert Hack Diamonds can also convert your old jewelry into something new or trade in your outdated pieces for something new and exciting. Many people inherit jewelry that might not be your taste, but you are sentimental. Why not have Robert Hack Diamonds take the golden gems and create something for you? So many options at Robert Hack Diamonds. Again, Robert Hack Diamonds pays cash for your unwanted gold, silver, and diamonds. See them in Brookfield, just east of Moreland on Greenland Avenue, or 76 in Layton, right on the corner in Greenfield. RobertHackDiamonds.com.
This is The Shaw, WAUK.
Don't let me down. Coming up in about a half hour is today's history lesson, and then you'll find out more about why we're playing this snippet from the Beatles' last live performance together up on a very cold rooftop on this day in history. That's coming up, like I said, in just about a half hour or so. Let's visit now with Sharita Booker, our social media manager at Up North News. Whether you're looking on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all around the World Wide Web, just search us out, Up North News or Up North News WI, depending on the platform, and see the kinds of things we put up. Some of it written and created by us, some of it sharing the content that makes Wisconsin a great place to live. Sharita, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
Very good, thanks. All right, so we've had quite the roller coaster winter-wise, but when winter works as it's supposed to, there are some great recreational opportunities and some sightseeing opportunities as well, and that would include something very beautiful and colorful in Lake Geneva, a post that got a lot of clicks and comments and likes. Tell us about it.
So this newest attraction in Lake Geneva is called Winter Realms, and it is formerly known as the Ice Castles. It's now open, and there's plenty of fun for the kiddos. They have ice slides, sleigh rides, tubing, igloos, and a whole lot more. Sandy Kenny said in the comments, they'll probably melt next week, temps in 40s every day. David Denemy said something similar. He said, we'll see after next week. Yes, I don't know how that works. Like if the temps get too warm, is it just, they just shut it down?
I think so, because then they could become, a hazard if something melts and weakens. But, there's still plenty of winter left, and there's going to be plenty of other sites to see. But, this is a good one to keep in mind, especially with the name change that when I think of ice castles, I think of that really cheesy movie from, I think it was 1980, and I can still kind of hear the song in the background. So I'm glad after all these years, they've decided to move on. So goodbye, ice castles, and hello to Winter Realms. For those of us who are not as jazzed up to be outdoors in the wintertime, you might want to be at some indoor park. I know I've brought our grandkids to some nice indoor parks, and there's a new one that's underway in a warehouse in Wauwatosa for you to tell us about.
Yeah, that's called Slick City. So it's an indoor slide park, and it's going to be open in August of this year. And that park will feature 10 slides, zip lines, and all sorts of other fun. And it'll be nice in the winter. So it's another place to take your kids somewhere indoors, so you don't have to worry about the weather. That post had more than 1,000 likes, almost 2,000 shares on Facebook, which is crazy. So people are really eager and excited to get there and bring the kids. A lot of tagging was going on underneath that post, tagging friends in the comments and saying, bring your kids here. I can't wait till this opens and stuff like that.
And that's cool. And by the way, just to make sure you did hear right, it's a slide park, not a water slide park. It's a slide park. It's like a big old indoor playground, very colorful, all kinds of slides of varying heights and curves and things like that. So, whether it's some people like, trampoline parks, some people like batting cages, some people like the water parks, but this is a very interesting one worth checking out. And you can learn more by looking for the post over on our Facebook page. All right. We now know who's going to be in the Super Bowl, but we've already known it wasn't going to be the Packers. But as we look back at some of our more popular posts recently, the one that we'd put up back when we were still dreaming about the Super Bowl, that attracted a lot of attention. Sharita, tell us about it.
So we asked you, if the Packers make it to the Super Bowl, I will blank. So that post had almost 200 comments, and here are a few of what you guys said. So McKenna Claire said, have a heart attack, literally. Lisa Angel said, still be wearing the Packers sweatshirt I have on right now. I'm superstitious. Richard Anklem said, have a very large brandy old-fashioned sweet.
Very traditional, very on brand. Good work there. That's great. We've also got somebody who understands opportunity. She writes, I'm going to go grocery shopping because it'll be Super Bowl Sunday. Enjoy the peace and quiet. yes, that can be done with almost any Packer game. So that's certainly, and that still will be an option, for this year's Super Bowl is, so many people watch it, but yeah, it makes the stores that much quieter. So always nice when we see these kind of comments underneath. And, for that and more, check out all of our social media posts. Sharita Booker puts them together for us. Just look for Up North News WI or Up North News on TikTok. And we'd love to have your comments on there and your ideas on other kinds of posts and other kinds of comments that we can drop in that space. Sharita, thanks very much. Have a great day.
You too, Pat.
All right, coming up on 626 now, let's play a game called Match the Quote with the Member of Congress. If I told you a bipartisan immigration and border security deal was looking increasingly likely on Capitol Hill, and someone from Wisconsin said, I will have no part of it. They said they'd have no part of a bipartisan deal to increase border security. Who would that be? And if a different member of Congress said the following, we have long supported increased funding for comprehensive measures to enhance border enforcement, management, and security. Now, which one of those was Derek Van Orden, and which one of those was Tammy Baldwin? Here's the answer. The one who wants no part in actually doing something about improving border security instead of just fear-mongering about it, that would be Derek Van Orden. The one trying to get something passed to increase border security resources, that would be Tammy Baldwin. But here's how ridiculous the effort has become to get a bipartisan deal ever since Donald Trump opened his yap the other day and said it would be better not to pass any bill at all, despite he and other Republicans saying that this is some kind of a national emergency, that they don't want to do anything about it now. Well, some Republicans are still moving forward on it. Most prominent among them, U.S. Senator James Lankford, Republican of Oklahoma. Oklahoma Republicans are so attached to Trump that the Oklahoma Republican Party just voted to censure their own U.S. Senator James Lankford for defending his efforts to put out a bipartisan border bill that former President Trump is attempting to stop. Lankford has been talking about the bill. He was asked by a Fox News host the other day, wouldn't this give Biden a victory lap in an election year? And Lankford said this. He said, it's interesting, Republicans 4 months ago would not give funding for Ukraine, for Israel, and for our southern border because we demanded changes in policy. So we actually locked arms together and said, we're not going to give you money for this. We want a change in law. And now, interestingly, a few months later, when we're finally getting to the end, they're like, oh, just kidding. I actually don't want a change in law because it's a presidential election year. That's a Republican senator from Oklahoma calling out his own party for the ridiculousness, the recklessness that they are putting on display this week in, again, claiming they want the law to be changed. They want more resources going to the border. They accuse Democrats of wanting open borders. Democrats are actually pushing to get something done at the border, to get resources there, to get resources to Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and elsewhere. But because Donald Trump doesn't want anything done, they're not going to do anything on all of these important matters. Keep that in mind for between now and November. Christina Laurie tells us more about the newsletter we put out every day at UpNorthNewsWI.com next. First, Pam Yonke with our farm market update and more news that affects Wisconsin's rural economy. You're up north. Don't let me down.
Photographs and documents today.
It's a theme we're noticing in a lot of our winter conferences: data collection, data sharing, and the story of sustainability. I'm Pam Yankee with a quick update on what's happening in food news as we get started on a Tuesday morning. Tim Trotter is the CEO, Executive Director of Edge Dairy Cooperative and the Dairy Business Association. He said one of the reasons why you're hearing so much about data collection and data sharing this winter is because it's such a critical component to keeping the trust of not only our food partners, but our consumers.
Know your data. Your data is your friend because the majority of farms, the vast majority of farms, are very sustainable. The problem is we have a story, but we don't have data to share.
Right.
Just tell me how this happens. And we see it happening in communities. You go up in Kewaunee County where, dairy farms were, looked as the big ugly machine up there. Now we have a really good rapport because those local farms are sharing their data with their communities. They're seeing better regulations. They're seeing more connection, and the marketplace is responding to it. We have brands wanting to see the data on farms as a way to leverage more value back to the farm.
Tim Trotter, he is the Chief Executive Officer for Dairy Business Association and Edge Dairy Farmer Cooperative. He says you are going to continue to hear more and more about the data you generate on your farm and trying to safely share that with your vendors so that the consumers remain trusting of Wisconsin farmers. Well, how much do you trust the numbers as we get started on a Tuesday morning? Had a pretty good day again yesterday as far as our dairy product prices. I'll give you the latest update next. Fabulous Farm Babe, glad to be joined in studio today by Doug Munson. He is the gentleman that is working in conjunction with the Wisconsin Soybean Marketing Board to make things happen here in the state of Wisconsin. What starts in Wisconsin can have a ripple effect across the United States.
That's what we always hope for, is what are those ripple effects? For every dollar that's invested, it's a return of $12.34. How those investments really bring value, they can be debated or they can be looked at in many different ways. Biodiesel brings, I think we say over $1 now. Years ago before inflation, we'll say it was 63 cents to a bushel of soybeans that brought that value. Whether it's 63 cents or it's $1, it's $1.34, which we've heard as high as that amount. That's a huge amount of value to your bushel of soybeans. So those are the things that are ripple effects, right? That can start in Wisconsin or sometimes at the national level, but have big impact in the world of soybean.
Doug Munson in studio with me on behalf of the Wisconsin Soybean Association and the Wisconsin Soybean Marketing Board, the financial driving force behind our research that's done here in the state of Wisconsin. For more, pop on over to cornsoyexpo.org. Not a bad day in dairy yesterday. Barrel cheese went up 8 cents to $1.55. 40-pound block cheese up 7 1/4 at $1.61, and double A butter another 4 1/4 higher, $2.80 1/4. March corn's down a penny. December new crop unchanged at $4.74. March soybeans are up a penny. November new crop at $11.79, and July wheat's unchanged. I'm Pam Yankee.
The Shaw, WAUK. Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
It is going to be cloudy and drizzly with a few flurries possible at times here throughout the day today. Another dreary one with a high of 38. The wind northwest at 5 to 15. Gradual clearing tonight, 32. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and a bit warmer with a high right around 43. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 33.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Keeping Southeast Wisconsin informed, engaged, and entertained. This is The
Welcome back to Up North News Radio. Time for the Uplift. Christina Laurie is here putting together our daily newsletter that you can get bright and early in the morning in your inbox at upnorthnewswi.com. Christina, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Pat?
I'm good, thanks. You are an Illinois native and proud alum, but you have really taken to Madison, to the life here, and especially to all things UW. in Madison. And so we've got a kind of a UW heavy uplift this time around, which I think is very admirable. And so let's start with one of your newsletter stories about how the UW compares in cost and graduation rates and other things like that to other Big Ten schools. What are people learning from our newsletter about that?
Well, first, Pat, I just want to let you know. So, what I think makes the UW so unique and what makes so many people like me who never even went there just pulled towards it is that it's really a statewide bonding experience. I mean, because of the way the UW system is, I mean, that's really like the school of Wisconsin. And down in Illinois, we have the University of Illinois, but then we have Northern Illinois, we have Eastern Illinois, we have Southern Illinois, we have Northwestern, University of Chicago, and those are all different. So it's not, you're not united all as Illini there, like everyone is a Badger.
Yeah, there's definitely that cohesion. And even if you are a Pointer or a Blue Gold or a Phoenix, I mean, you still in many ways identify with, that there is a flagship school that appeals to the whole state.
Yeah, I mean, and just in terms of sports, like all of the schools in Illinois, they have different D1 teams. Here, if you go to UW Whitewater, you're still probably excited to come to Camp Randall and root on the Badgers on Saturday. Yeah. And that's why this study was so interesting. So the Big Ten, every year they release its annual ranking of all its schools in terms of tuition, graduation rate, and post-graduation salary, so that especially this time of year, prospective students can see, what school is the best fit for them. And there's a lot of good news for anyone considering attending Wisconsin. So in terms of undergraduate tuition cost, Wisconsin has the fourth lowest in-state undergrad tuition in the Big Ten, behind only Nebraska, Purdue, and Iowa. It's really nice to know in-state students pay roughly $11,000 a year. At Illinois, I was in state there. I paid $28,000 a year, and they really only gave scholarships for perfect 36 ACT scores. So Wisconsin, you are very lucky, and I am very envious. In terms of graduate tuition, that's they're also fourth behind the same schools as undergrad tuition. And then average salary 10 years after graduation, basically the question of, did you make a good deal? Wisconsin drops 2 spots, but they're still ranked 6, which is in the top half of the Big Ten. That's no longer 10. Topic for a different day.
Right.
But 10 years after receiving their diploma, the average Badger is making $68,000 a year. And it's important to note that this data is off of 2022's findings. So hopefully that average tuition has increased with the price of inflation. If you're wondering what Big Ten school earns the most 10 years after graduation, Pat, do you want to guess?
Minnesota.
Northwestern.
Northwestern. Oh, okay. All right.
Academically, I do think that they're probably the hardest of the Big Ten to get into. And the conference average is $66,000 a year. So across the board, wherever you attend, I mean, the Big Ten seems like it still is a good deal.
And again, all of these things are going to be skewed like crazy when you start to fold in UCLA, USC. Who knows what else is coming in? These conferences don't even mean anything anymore. It's just a shame.
Even within individual schools, they're so skewed, because if you got an LAS degree or you graduated with a master's in engineering, that's going to be wildly different salaries.
Yep. Well, okay. So along with comparing them that way, you can compare them in other areas, and mascots would certainly be one of them. And I know, because we've talked to Dr. Lyerly about this a few times, because she for years was Goldie Gopher. These are schools that take their mascots very seriously.
Wow, I didn't know that she was Goldie Gopher. They have a lot of it's fun if you ever look into who can become Bucky Badger. They're sworn to secrecy. They're not allowed to tell anyone else that they are the mascot. 2 Buckies can never appear in the same place at the same time, because you'd hate to ruin that magic. But there's a fun power ranking by SaturdayTradition.com of the Big Ten mascots. Number 1 is actually Goldie Gopher. So good for Dr. Lyerly on that.
Yes, she was going on about that last week sometime, and the fact that Goldie's head spins, and there's something in the article, I guess, about that as well that explains that particular tradition. So, yeah, Goldie Gopher. What else?
Well, in this ranking, it's funny. The little GIF that's included for Goldie Gopher is Goldie pelting the Wisconsin welcomes you sign with snowballs.
Of course.
So, it's funny. But let's move on. Number 2 is a Brutus Buckeye. He got a lot of points for his originality because, I mean, he's wearing a nut on his head. 3 is Sparty, and then Bucky comes in at number 4. Some fun facts about Bucky is that his full name is actually Buckingham U. Badger, but the U doesn't stand for anything.
Right.
So
it's like the S in Harry S. Truman. Sometimes things just don't stand. Sometimes things are just a letter.
That is exactly what this article had said. You guys were simpatico.
Yeah.
And then just to round out the rest of the top 10, 5 is Herky the Hawkeye. 6 is the Nittany Lion. 7 is Herbie Husker. I'm still in denial that Nebraska is really part of the Big Ten, but they are.
That's really kicking it old school.
I know. I remember the days when
still fighting that battle. All right.
Penn State was the latest edition. 8 was Willie the Wildcat. He wasn't very original. And then I guess the list stops there.
Yeah, because there's still some things that, I mean, hard to identify what some of these mascots are.
Yeah, some schools too don't have mascots. Illinois, they trying to reignite the debate and vote on a different mascot, and they're just always so dumb. When I was in school, there was like a school-wide referendum to try to get the squirrel as the mascot because there's a lot of squirrels on campus. But my question is, what campus doesn't have squirrels?
Right.
Like how is that a definitively Illinois characteristic? The only one I could kind of get behind is if we leaned into something with Lincoln, like it's something that is uniquely Wisconsin.
I was going to go with the Dailies. I mean, you've got a family political dynasty there. Why not have a Daily in there?
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Okay, people who don't follow Chicago politics can be forgiven. I'm sorry about that. Let's get back to the UW here, and a big milestone for Greg Gard.
Yeah, so Tuesday night, the Badgers, speaking of Minnesota, beat them by just 2 points to win that border battle. And Coach Gard secured his 100th win, his 100th Big Ten win as head coach. That's a big deal. It really blew up. We shared this on our social media pages. It exploded. We shared a fun little video of the athletes, of Greg walking into the locker room and all the athletes throwing confetti on him and surprising him. It was just a sweet celebration. You kind of forget, it seems, I don't know, you have to tell me, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but it feels like Bo Ryan has been gone for a while, and Gard only took over at the end of 2015. So this was a pretty quick surge to 100 Big Ten victories. I mean, Big Ten's competitive, a lot of good schools there, a lot of consistently top 25 ranked teams. So to have 100 wins against them is a really big deal. And another just fun note about this year in particular is that the UW recently published a list of all the border battles they won this year. And Wisconsin won in basically every sport: football, basketball, women's hockey, men's hockey, volleyball. I mean, it's just across the board. They are dominating. It's really fun.
It's nice to have a tradition of excellence that way. So good on them. And by the way, if I didn't mention it earlier, the Badgers take on Nebraska, that alleged Big Ten team, in Lincoln, coming up Thursday at 7:30 on stations across the Civic Media Network. And you can also listen off the Civic Media app and find out how the Badgers are doing now that you've learned so much more about the UW. Christina Laurie, thanks for putting those stories and much more in our newsletter and on Wisconsin. We'll talk to you later on.
I can't co-sign that. We didn't play Illinois yet.
I know.
We'll have that match at the end of the month.
That's
nice talking to you, Pat.
See ya. Greg, we talked in that segment there about mascots and about Goldie Gopher from the University of Minnesota spinning its head. Yeah. So when Kristen mentioned that last week, she later sent me a link And the link was to an article that said something about, the Goldie head spinning thing. And I didn't think anything of it. Well, I just thought, well, she's just giving a little bit of trivia. I'm looking at the article right now, and naturally she plays a key role in this debate over who was first to spin Goldie Gopher's head. And so different people were taking credit for it. But later, one of the Goldies credits, it says here, Kristen Lyerly, the football Goldie from 1989 to 1991, for popularizing the move. Lyerly, a Wisconsin native and OBGYN in Green Bay, was the second female Goldie and the last from the marching band before the athletic department took over the mascots. And
she
so
was a
apparently,
marching band nerd.
yeah, well, but she didn't play any instruments. I forget if she played like the triangle or something like that, but apparently she did it and it got really popular. And so they still don't agree on who did it first, but in this article, apparently she made it rather popular the way that she did it. Of course she did. She's everywhere.
That's the only way I'll accept the news. Don't you dare contradict Dr. Lyerly.
No, Lyerly told the Minnesota Post she had seen the Iowa State mascot spin heads at a summer mascot camp and decided to incorporate the shtick. Unaware that others had already done it, Lyerly said, "I thought this is really cool. Maybe I could do that." This time it caught on with the band itself cheering for Lyerly to spin her head. So yeah, it only stands to reason. By the way, a couple of great old photos here of Lyerly and Goldie. So,
You have to send that to me. And also, you just sort of walked past that statement, mascot summer camp.
Yes, I did, didn't I? Yes, I did.
I thought band camp was a
I
place for
was going to
nerds.
go there too, and I'm wondering
Holy
what
crap.
I'm wondering what the doctor will have to say about that at some point. She will be joining us on Thursday for her Women Win Wisconsin segment. But yeah, for all the talk about mascots, it turns out Kristen played a role in history, I guess, in some way, shape, or form about it. Now, I did mention that the Badger men, the basketball team, is at Nebraska on Thursday, jumping up to number 6 in the rankings. I wanted to hit a couple of other quick notes on there. The Marquette men's team is ranked 14th in the nation. They are second in the Big East. They will be at Villanova tonight. The Badger women's basketball team is at Ohio State Thursday. The Marquette women's basketball team is at Creighton tomorrow. And then in hockey, the Badger men's hockey team fell from number 3 to number 4, but they will be at home to take on the Gophers, the 9th-ranked Gophers, on Friday and Saturday. The Badger women's hockey team swept UMD. They have a 9-game winning streak going, so they're number 2 in the country. They have a home series Saturday and Sunday against number 10 St. Cloud State. And in Division III, UW River Falls, the women's hockey team, number 1 in the country still, undefeated still, 21-0 with 2 games to go. The UW Eau Claire women are ranked number 7 in the country in Division III. And for the Division III men, UW Stevens Point is ranked 8th in the country, and the Eau Claire Blue Golds ranked 14th right there. So there's a little sports update for you. Coming up next, we're going to have today's history lesson and some musical memories. First, a reminder to download that Civic Media app. Get it free at your favorite app store or through Google Play. You can search on that app for any of the local stations that you'd like to tune into. You can use the call and text buttons to interact with the show as well. We'd love to hear from you. Live from Chippewa Falls, this is Up North News Radio.
For making us #1 electrical service company in our area. From residential and commercial to all things solar. Do you know the #1 reason people call Current Electric? It is trust. We answer the call. They trust our heroes in their home and businesses. With 8,500 5-star reviews and growing, I'm so very proud of our team of heroes. Go to callcurrent.com. That's callcurrent.com. Home of the superheroes.
From the kennel to the coop, whatever the season, Fleet Farm has everything to keep your animals happy and healthy. From training your pup to sit season to mastering those retrieval skills season. From clipping your horse for competition season to keeping the backyard birds well-fed season. And of course, loving your pets like family season. There's a reason people say, if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, you don't need it. Because we have it all. Fleet Farm, built for
Tonight you're mine, completely. You give your love so sweetly.
This would be the Shirelles, Will You Love Me Tomorrow? It was the number one song on this day, January 30th, 1961. It was the first big hit for the songwriting team of Carole King and Jerry Goffin. On this day in 1847, the town of Yerba Buena, California, got a new name. It was renamed San Francisco, no longer Yerba Buena, California, on this day in 1847. On this day in 1969, the Beatles played a performance up on the roof of Apple Records, so only later would it be made historic by noting it would be their last final public performance. The concert was eventually shut down by police after they played about a half a dozen songs or so. Get Back most notably among them. Don't Let Me Down, we played that one a little bit earlier as well. It seemed like it was much more of just a rehearsal, almost kind of an air check thing that they decided to play upstairs, but it would be the last time that they would play together. On this day in 1956, Martin Luther King Jr.'s home was bombed in retaliation for the Montgomery bus boycott. Let's do some birthdays now. Let's see. Phil Collins. Let's start with him. He is 72 years old today.
Just to remind you two hearts leading just one line. You know we're too hard.
Obviously a very successful solo career after a good long run as the singer and drummer for Genesis. Actor Gene Hackman is 94 years old today, still with us. Dick Cheney, former vice president, is 83. Marty Ballin of Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, and Starship was born this day in 1942. Marty Ballin passed away in 2018. Jody Watley is 65 years old today. That one seems off, but again, an 80s singer. Turning 65 today. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is 52 years old today. Actor Christian Bale is 50. Greg, you probably do a dead-on impression of Christian Bale, don't you?
As Batman, I do.
Yep, there it is. I mean, I can't even tell. Oh, wait, is that Michael Keaton? There's just a little nuance in them.
Let's get nuts.
On this day in 1988, INXS landed their first and only number one hit in the U.S. with Need You Tonight.
This song's so good.
I do. I love it. Yep. Again, this is as classic 80s as it gets. I almost feel like I'm back at Shenanigans or Trader and Trapper, Claire. Only then.
I love it when you talk about the old haunts.
Oh God, I loved going down. We would leave. We lived in dorms on the upper campus, and anybody who knows the UW Eau Claire campus knows there's this big hill that you go down if you want to get down to the lower campus and then out to Water Street. And we'd go down to Water Street. We would be just bundled up. We'd be so cold. That footbridge was just so cold. But every time we'd walk back at bar time, our coats were open and we were so because we were so sweaty because we'd been dancing and drinking for hours on Water Street. And I cannot believe more of us didn't die of pneumonia or something like that. But, we learned if the antidote to cold weather, dance. Just dance. That's the way it'll get done.
Pat Kreitlow is not a doctor, nor is anything he says endorsed by the Doctors Association of America. Dr. Kristen Lyerly will be very upset with him tomorrow when she hears about this.
That's right. Today, speaking of cold weather, and again, it's not all that cold right now, but today is National Escape or Plan a Vacation Day. So I would think most people have got their winter vacations planned by now, but I know I have mine planned for just a couple more weeks here. So
really,
yep.
Okay.
Look at this. Roger's paying attention. With apologies to Pat's wife, when Daryl Hall and John Oates reached number 1 on this day in 1982 with "I Can't Go For That, No Can Do," it replaced Olivia Newton-John's "Physical," which was number 1 for the 10 weeks prior. I like that Roger remembers that my wife, not a big Hall and Oates fan. Not a big fan at all.
Well, for her, then I give her this.
There you go.
I just don't get it, Dr. Kreitlow. I don't get it.
I don't either. I don't. I'm always so surprised by that. But, everybody's got their thing. And thankfully, she's at work right now. So she's not.
I mean, it's not like this. Yeah. Christmas is
How
coming.
long have you been hanging on to that Paul McCartney clip just to get under my skin?
Oh, I have it ready at all times, friend. At all times.
Well played. And only really one other note on the calendar today. This is National Croissant Day, or for those of you who prefer, National Croissant Day. Which sounds more like a sound effect than any attempt to speak French,
I love the old Dennis Miller lines, like, America ruins everything. The French gave us the croissant, and we turned it into the Chris sandwich.
We did, and I loved it. I loved when that thing first came out.
Too.
And the thing about croissants and other fine pastries is, and I know I said this recently about bagels as well, is you really got to tip your cap to the people who get it right. And I saw, an article somewhere on the web getting set for this. It was all about making, the perfect croissant and how much work goes into it.
Yeah.
And the same goes for popovers. And we stayed with some friends over the weekend. We went to go visit them, and he prides himself on his popovers, but he said he's been on a streak lately, like the last 4, 5, 6 times that he's tried to make popovers, they're not popping. And he's made them plenty of times before. It's making him crazy to figure out what he's doing wrong, to the point where they didn't pop on Sunday morning, and he was very embarrassed. And we were like, "No, they're delicious. They're great.
They're fine. They're fine.
They're fine." Well, he didn't want to be fine. So about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours later, after we're back home, his wife sends video of him trying to make another batch on their own later that day, just because and that one didn't turn out either. So he's still trying to figure out. I told him to get, that he needed to get TikTok and just start watching videos there, because you can pretty much get a video on anything. So whether you're making popovers or croissants or bagels or anything that, takes more than plopping a frozen dough loaf in a pan, God bless you, and bring some to share next time you stop by. We love freshly baked goods here. In our next hour, we're going to talk to Jerry Clark about the importance of farm education all across Wisconsin. That's in our second hour of Up North News Radio on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Earl Ingram Show, weekday mornings from 8 till 10 on The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK.
Hey everybody, it's Todd Allball coming up at noon on Tuesday, another edition of Wacky Things Legislators Say in Madison. Join us at noon on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Why choose Weichert Realtors? Because your community is our community. We are your neighbors, your students, your chefs, your soldiers, your builders, your actors, your musicians, and your radio personalities. We love this city as much as you do, and that's why we want to help you live your best life here. Because we are your realtors. Call us today and let us help you find your next home. 608-821-7002 or visit Weichert-lakepoint.com. Weichert Realtors Lake Point, a home for all.
You're listening listening to The Shaw, WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266DR Waukesha, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
This is the CBS World News Roundup, sponsored by Staples.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. Families of the 3 U.S. service members killed in a drone attack at a base in Jordan are grieving the loss of their loved ones. All 3 were from a base in Georgia. Among them, Oneida Oliver Sanders' 24-year-old daughter, Specialist Kennedy Sanders.
I'm still in shock when she went into the reserves. I never thought she would, be the one that see this type of action.
President Biden has promised to respond to the attack inflicted by what officials tell us was an Iranian-made drone. The National Security Council's John Kirby.
I hope you can understand why I'm not going to telegraph any punches here from the podium, nor will I get in front of the president or his decision-making. He's met twice with his national security team. He's weighing the options before him.
Some Republicans in Washington are urging a direct attack on Iran. Some Democrats urging restraint with hits on Iranian targets in Iraq and Syria. There's a political divide in the House on impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over the way he's handled the crisis at the southern border. The GOP's Mark Green.
Secretary Mayorkas has disregarded court orders, laws passed by the United States Congress, and has lied to the American people.
Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
House Republicans have produced no evidence that Secretary Mayorkas has broken the law.
The Homeland Security Committee has scheduled a vote for today. Police in California are continuing their investigation into the murders of 6 men whose bodies were scattered across the Mojave Desert. 5 suspects have been arrested. San Bernardino County Sheriff Sergeant Michael Warwick.
There's certain things at the scene that show a level of violence that obviously raises some interesting questions for us. But at this point in the investigation, we can't comment on if we believe this is cartel related or not.
He says all 6 victims were shot. 4 of them were also burned. They're snowed in Alaska. They've already got more than 8 feet, and it's not even February yet. Paul Van Landingham is in charge of street maintenance in Anchorage.
Lots of snow, but light and fluffy. It's moving pretty good. Guys and gals are being able to plow through it at a pretty good pace. Now it's just slow and steady, and we'll get this thing done.
It's the fastest they've reached the 100-inch snow mark in the city's history. It's okay to search social media again for Taylor Swift. X has lifted its ban on searches for the pop star after blocking them for several days when explicit digitally altered pictures began to spread on the platform. A spokesman says they'll keep an eye out for new attempts to post offending content and remove them if they find them. S&P futures down 2. This is CBS News.
Staples stores provide innovative products and services for small business, remote workers and learners, even teachers and parents. Explore more at your local Staples store.
For Civic Media News, I'm Nate Wiggyhout. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. A key committee of state lawmakers this week will take up a proposed $7.5 million matching grant as Wisconsin seeks to be a regional federal tech hub. Lisa Johnson heads the group leading the effort. She tells WISN TV's Upfront that state approval is an important step.
So now the state's coming forward and saying, we do believe it, we agree, and we're willing to put money behind this.
The governor has to sign off on the matching funds by the end of next month. Vaping in Wisconsin is among the lowest in the United States, according to a new study. Research from Forbes Advisory ranks Wisconsin number 40 in the nation for e-cigarette use. Only 3.3% of Wisconsin adults tell the study they vape every day. The national average is 3.8%. I'm Nate Wiggyhout, Civic Media News.
The Bucks lose to the Nuggets. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Denver Nuggets spoiled the debut of Doc Rivers with a 113-107 win over Milwaukee, but the new head coach says it wasn't the Bucks defense that failed, it was the offense.
I told our guys, anyone who told you couldn't play defense, lie. You proved that tonight. I thought tonight was an offensive loss.
In college basketball, a new AP Top 25, Wisconsin moves up this week to number 6 after beating Michigan State. The Badgers face the Cornhuskers in Nebraska this Thursday. Marquette now ranked number 9 after a decisive victory over Seton Hall in Milwaukee. The Golden Eagles are in Villanova, Pennsylvania to take on the Wildcats tonight, looking for their 5th win in a row. Baseball, the Brewers' new first baseman, Rhys Hoskins, says he's looking forward to spring training next month, coming off a torn ACL last March.
I'll be stoked to get on the field, but just stoked to get down to Arizona and meet with this medical team and put a plan in place going forward.
That's the Brewers' Rhys Hoskins. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
It is going to be cloudy and drizzly with a few flurries possible at times here throughout the day today. Another dreary one with a high of 38. The wind northwest at 5 to 15. Gradual clearing tonight, 32. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and a bit warmer with a high right around 43. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 33.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
On this Tuesday, January 30th, 2024, now, meteorologist Brittany Merlot is off today, so let me tell you first who's coming up this hour. Chippewa County farm management educator Jerry Clark is officially an award-winning friend to farmers. He's recipient of the University of Wisconsin's Distinguished Teaching Award. He's going to join us in a bit to talk about the vital work of helping farmers with crop rotation, markets, new technologies, all the things that make Wisconsin agriculture a big player in global trade and in family farm success. So again, listen for that. Let's see. In Brittany's absence, let me tell you that at 7 a.m., temperatures around the state go like this. It's 37 here on Lake Wissota. Hayward's at 33. Park Falls is 32. Wausau, 35 degrees right now. Green Bay, 35. La Crosse, 38. Wisconsin Rapids, 36. Oshkosh reporting 36. Madison, 37. And in Waukesha, it's 34 degrees. We will have continued mild, unseasonably warm weather, a good chance of record high temperatures tomorrow in parts of the state. A little light rain and snow this morning in the western part of the state, patchy drizzle in the southeastern part of the state, a light wintry mix up in the north central region. All will give way to mostly cloudy skies today, highs in the mid to upper 30s, potentially reaching 40. Some places will see 50 tomorrow. Needless to say, what's left of the snow is fading fast, and so do stay off the ice. Greg, you never know who's listening to the radio. Wait, don't. She will not spin her head. That's her actual head. Dr. Kristen Lyerly joining us now from Green Bay in her brand new University of Minnesota leather jacket and matching hat. And clearly somebody heard we were talking about spinning Goldie's head, and Christina Laurie talking about the ranking of mascots, and Goldie Gopher ranked number 1. But Kristen, I didn't know there was controversy about you being Goldie Gopher. Good morning.
First of all, thank you for summoning me this morning. I felt this pull to be with you.
Women's rights.
There was controversy. Well, there was a lot going on during that period. And, there's always more to the story. But the really sweet backstory, oh my gosh, the pictures.
And for folks watching on Facebook right now, we have found a photo of a college student.
Adorable. You are so adorable.
That is some serious 80s, 90s hair going on there.
I would really like to go to the other picture with that full-on Rachel she's got.
Oh, I didn't get the Rachel copied in time, so we'll get that another time. But there you are holding Goldie's head, and so
look at that.
So when you sent me the article, I thought it was just a little thing, a little background on the Gopher mascot, and then I come to find out that no, you're a big part of the middle of the article about who either first did the Goldie head spin or who first made it popular, and you're getting a little credit which I think I understand given that you're a bit of a spirited person.
Well, my favorite part about the story is that it ends up being a story about people working together and creating something really beautiful together. So somebody else had claimed responsibility for the spin your head move, but all of my friends in marching band knew that it wasn't that person. It was actually us working together. So there was an article in the New York Times where this other person had claimed responsibility, and we reached out to the person who wrote it, and we put together a big group of marching band people who shared their experiences, and we all had evidence. I mean, this is still a group, this was what, 10 years ago, but this is a group that still survives online. We still get together at the football games. We talk about the old times, and we talk about how we saved the tradition of Goldie spinning his head and how that all came together. It's just such a cool story. I love it.
And the person who falsely claimed it had to step down as the president of Yale.
Well, it did. He took a big hit to his reputation because of it. He didn't have a great reputation to begin with because he kind of had a series of those kinds of behaviors, taking credit for things that he shouldn't have.
During the discussion, Pat was talking about the story and mentioned, what was it? It was mascot summer camp. And he said it like
mascot summer camp.
And he said it as if he was to say, oh, I went to the beach this weekend, or just something normal, something simple. And I'm sitting here going, I'm sorry, mascot summer. Yes, there it is. Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Lyerly, and I'm here to take care of you today.
Mascot summer camp is a blast because mascots are really fun people. That's all you need to know.
I'm sure that's all we're going to hear. That's all we're going to hear about it.
I can't tell you anything more. Yeah. What happens at mascot summer camp stays at mascot summer camp.
And the heads always stay on.
This is getting into unusual territory right now. But you were so proud to get your letter jacket last week, only however many years overdue. And you said you were hardly ever going to take it off. You still have it on, so I have no reason to doubt you.
Well, when you texted me and said you better have your letter jacket on, luckily it was very close by.
Of course it was.
Everybody who comes in my house, I'm like, hey, did I show you my letter jacket? I'm like, I honestly, I'm like a 16-year-old kid. It's very exciting.
Why are you getting it now versus like why is it now?
So
yes, there's a story here.
There's always a story. So when I first was Goldie, I was with the marching band. The marching band actually had originated Goldie and developed Goldie, but then the athletic department recognized the potential that a mascot has to sell the university essentially. So they took it over. Well, I was in that role. I was the only mascot at the time. Yeah. And so I felt like I had lost Goldie for the band. I mean, it was really traumatic for me, but I stayed on as the athletic department Goldie for the next 2 seasons. But it wasn't fully established yet in the athletic department. So all the Goldies after me got letters, but I didn't get a letter because it was so early on.
Yeah.
So I wrote to the athletic department an email and explained the situation and sent them that article from MinPost. And they were then really excited because that was like the origin of the athletic department Goldie. So they were excited to give me the jacket. And after everything that I had been throughout that transition, time heals a lot of wounds. So after everything I had been through, that makes it that much more special to me. It has been such a big part of I really have cared. It's crazy. It's just a mascot, but it has been really important to me.
I was going to say, I just want to remind the people listening when she says, quote, the things I went through, we're talking about moving from the marching department to the athletic department of Minnesota State University. I don't know. I went to
University. Yeah, but I felt like I lost, clearly the athletic department was going to take the mascot. I mean, they were so powerful, but for me, I was like, what did I do wrong? How can I hold on to it? This is tradition. I was 18. I didn't know any better. Looking back now. Yeah, right. Maybe that's all part of the origin story. Who knows?
I'm wondering, has anybody else gotten more mileage out of being a mascot than Kristen Lyerly in the years since? Everybody else, it says in the article, many people, they just, they keep it secret and they don't want to talk about too much. Here's Kristen out here on statewide radio going, oh no, there was a big controversy about this.
Just in the middle of an exam going, do you know I was the first Goldie?
I was not the first Goldie. No,
I was
but
the best Goldie.
I was not the best Goldie. There's some great Goldies out there, but it fits into the whole community building piece. You know, it fits into the whole working together, like the spin your head thing. Yeah, I spun my head, but other people had spun their head before. But we made it a thing by working with the marching band. When the marching band started demanding it and I responded, that's when the fans started to get on board. And that's when it really became the tradition.
And look, you can't possibly know what will or won't become a tradition in the moment. I mean, you look at some of the things. Look at Jump Around. Who would have thought the first time that they played that song that it would become this globally recognized phenomenon, you know?
Oh, I love it too. Don't you just like when you're watching at home, don't you jump around also?
Oh, of course.
I do.
Absolutely. Yes. And we, teaching the grandkids to do it has been the best, because my younger daughter is a Gopher and met her husband. They're both Wisconsin kids, but they went to the U of M. And so now, of course, they're teaching their two little rugrats, the jump around, the Minnesota traditions, I should say. But the jump around is just so fun,
Okay. So jump around is the Minnesota, because I was thinking
No,
song.
no,
Jump is Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. I was conflating.
I was going to say
the two
that
there.
is not
Yeah.
appropriate for children to be listening to. It's got some very questionable lyrics.
Who's listening to the lyrics?
Wait a minute. Do you know what we're talking about?
No, I don't. I'm thinking "Jump Around" by House of Pain. The song.
Greg is the only person in Wisconsin who has no idea what jump around at the games is.
I went to college late. I didn't enjoy the experiences like you all did. Okay.
I went to Eau Claire. We didn't have any of this. We were just a simple asking ourselves, what is a blue gold?
Don't in disappointment.
Now, I am. That's the collective that all of our fans across the state right now are like, oh, Greg, we've got to get you to a football game.
I'll go with I'll make this statement right here on radio. Dr. Lyerly, you want to take me to a football game? I will go to a football game with you.
Let's go.
I'll even wear those ridiculous overalls.
Even better. Okay, we have a date, Pat.
Don't the Badgers open up the season against the Gophers this fall?
The schedule is all weird this year with all of the West Coast teams in it. I don't know.
No, it's no. I'm sorry. It's Western Michigan, which is where my son-in-law plays. I'm conflating that. Let me scroll down here. We're going to find ourselves Minnesota comes
Usually
to Camp Randall on Saturday, November 30th.
Yeah, it's usually at the very end.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, we'll start planning it.
It's the last game of the regular season there. So
let's get Civic Media to sponsor it. Up North News, come on. This could be fun.
Let's get you to that first one against Western Michigan on Saturday, August 31st. Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm down. I'll go.
Let's
I'll
go.
jump around.
I'm going anyway because I've got family, over on the sidelines. But
and I will jump around.
Okay.
And we need a tailgate. And then we need to tell our friends across the state where it is so they can stop in and say, hey, pick up some swag.
You know how I just said a few minutes ago, you never know how a tradition's going to get started.
Uh-huh.
I believe we are starting one right here.
Whoa.
I think something big and fun is about to be happening.
And then we can go to Comedy Club on State afterwards for a show.
Brilliant.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
Yes.
Right. Just a floor or two below the palatial studios of the Civic Media Radio Empire,
which has a free app available for download.
Yes,
after fifth quarter. After fifth quarter.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to hang around for a bit, or have you said your piece and you're ready to move on?
I'll hang around for a little bit. I'm doing full mom today, so I'm just hanging out, cleaning the house, dropping my kid off at school.
All right. Sounds good. Well, because I still want to ask you who's on Women Who Win Wisconsin this week and more. So why don't you stick around for a little bit, and we'll talk more with our favorite Goldie, Kristen Lyerly, coming up more after this on the Civic Media Radio Network. The Rachel.
WAUK.
Are you being offered a complete
many
seed treatment
hairstyles
package? If your seed treatment doesn't help against soybean diseases like white mold, sudden death syndrome, and
I look at all of
rhizoctonia,
these people
then
wearing these
it's
cute
not
hats
complete.
now,
Heads Up
and
Seed
I wear
Treatment offers
hats now, like in the
protection against
winter.
all of these
And I
diseases
think to
through
myself about
method
myself
of
in high
action.
school how I would
To
never
make
ever
your
wear a hat
resistance.
because it would crush
Don't
my
get caught
hair,
off guard
and
in
I'd never
2020.
be able to get that volume
The
back.
best defense against the unpredictability of each season by completing your seed treatment package with Heads Up. Visit headsupst.com to learn more.
The For the Love of Democracy Tour 2024 continues. Crudy lands in Las Vegas for the Nevada presidential primary, a competing GOP caucus, and all the build-up to Super Bowl 58. Tune in for special events broadcast live from the Vegas Strip. From Nevada primary Tuesday, February 6th through Super Bowl Friday, Crudy brings on-the-ground coverage from a swing state that helped Joe Biden win the presidency.
Viva Las Vegas.
I'm having a tough time with Jody Watley turning 65. Again, I feel like my youth is just slipping away over here. Then again, we've already talked about somebody going in for his colonoscopy today. So I think that ship has already sailed in terms of keeping my youth around, right?
You look pretty well hydrated though.
No, I'm sounding fairly dehydrated. I am this close to just turning the show over. But not before I say that we've got some great guests coming up the next 3 mornings here during this time period. The 3 Democratic candidates running in the primary for the 3rd Congressional District. Now, one of these 3 may be the one to take on Republican Derek Van Orden coming up this November. Tomorrow at 7:05, we'll have State Representative Katrina Shanklin. Thursday at 7:05, Eau Claire businesswoman Rebecca Cook. Eric Wilson Friday at 7:05 as well. And so we invite you to tune in or catch us later on social media and look back at the show and learn about these candidates, one of whom may be the next representative in Congress from Western Wisconsin. 2 of them we have featured previously, Kristen, in our, Women Win Wisconsin type of coverage. Another one of them being Tammy Baldwin. And from the Hill newspaper this morning, Senate Republicans are expecting their final piece of the 2024 puzzle to fall into place. They say that Eric Hovde, a Madison-based businessman, is expected to enter the race sometime between the Super Bowl and the end of February, as he's been hiring staff and gearing up for a run. So Tammy Baldwin's going to have a busy time, and you continue helping highlight some of the women who are running around Wisconsin.
We actually have a big event coming up tonight in Green Bay. Alicia Saunders, Kelly Peterson, and I are going to be the panelists at a Women Win Wisconsin event at the Tarleton Theater tonight at 7. Secretary of State Sarah Godlewski will be there. Our Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez will be there. We've got over 100 attendees signed up with lots of questions and lots of enthusiasm about how can we elevate women in Wisconsin, especially in northeastern Wisconsin. There are very few women in leadership here, but we know that there is the will. So we're going to start to create that energy and to see where we go from there. I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah. So we're not expecting any big announcement. This is more of just a community discussion, shall we say?
All 3 of us have been mentioned as folks who could potentially run against Mike Gallagher, and we will definitely be talking about Mike Gallagher's record, how he appears to be a moderate, but votes with the extremists, has voted 3 times to shut the government down, voted to keep George Santos in Congress, has voted to prevent people from getting access to contraception and everything that follows after that. I mean, he is just not the person that he appears to be. So we're going to continue to expose that so people really understand what they're voting for in November.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because part of what prompted my outreach to the candidates running in the 3rd Congressional District has been the social media posts from incumbent Republican Derek Van Orden, who, again, upon becoming this congressman just about a year ago now, was going to be the kindly grandfather, kind of the moderate, and a lot of us knew better. We'd watched his behavior in the past. He wouldn't debate his opponents in the past. And over the past, 1 to 2 weeks, his social media feeds have just become a cesspool of expletives and, saying things that aren't true and sounding rather, just extreme and like he's just going to play to that Trump loving base. And it seems like people should, be hearing more about the whole range of viewpoints and people that are out there. So, in both corners of the state, I think that the incumbent Republicans are going to finally get some of that extra scrutiny that they should be getting during an election year.
Yeah, I think they're scrambling because they're so far off what the people want. People of Wisconsin want common sense. You say it in your Up North News bit, Wiscommon sense. That's who we are. We're independent thinkers, and we don't agree with this extremism. And they have gone so far to the right. We want to bring it back to the people, get some policies rolling that will actually help the people of this state and of this country.
Well, and the whole notion of what's been happening with policy lately on immigration and the border, that you now have, Derek Van Orden agreeing with Trump and saying he wants no part of any bipartisan deal to better secure the border between now and the election. So were you lying all this time? Or, did you suddenly have a change of heart to do whatever Donald Trump tells you to do? And I think it's high time we get, Gallagher and the others on the record about this.
I think it's interesting that they're showing their cards so much. Like between now and the election, we're not going to participate in a bipartisan agreement because we don't want the other side to have any wins. But after the election, we're willing to work on the problems. Like that's not what we elected you for. We elected you to fix the problems now. You don't just get to complain about it now so that you get reelected and then can do nothing. Actually, that's what happened with healthcare. I mean, remember that?
Yes.
We're going to take down the ACA. We'll have something bigger and better. But there never was anything bigger and better. It was just about dismantling the ACA.
Right. And the immigration thing goes back to 2013 when there was a plan that got 68 votes in the Senate. I'm going to say it again. An immigration plan got 68 votes in the Senate, but hard right Republicans in the House under John Boehner wouldn't even bring it up for a vote because they didn't want the issue to go away. And now it's moved beyond immigration. From the Washington Post this morning, there is now, bipartisan agreement on a potential tax bill, but it's being opposed by Republicans who don't like that the expanded child tax credit would be coming back. They want only the extension of the business tax cuts that were in the 2017 Trump tax bill. But, again, because this might actually be a compromise, they don't want it. They don't want to see tax relief passed. And it's just so intellectually revealing, shall we say, as to what they're really thinking their job is about.
Well, let's just boil it down to a sentence. We care about businesses, not families.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what you see there?
Yeah. And now I will be, to be fair, there are some liberal Democrats who also don't like the bill because they say it doesn't expand the child tax credit enough. But again, that's the whole thing behind bipartisan legislation is not everybody's going to get everything they want, but you're going to do something. You're going to get something passed. And then maybe you can fight another day and get more of what you want. But the one thing you would never want as a public official is to get nothing done. And yet we have an increasingly rising amount of people who want to brag about getting nothing done. And we just have to help voters stop rewarding that.
That's our Congress right now. It's the do nothing Congress. They are the least effective Congress in decades. And to be proud of that is shocking when there's so much need. There are so many problems in the world that need to be solved. That's why I think November is going to be a total game changer for us, because many of us, just the regular people, recognize that we need something different. We need something more. And we are the people who have to make it happen because clearly they are not concerned about it.
All right. So we're going to see you next on Thursday for a Women Win Wisconsin segment. And what are we doing?
I haven't decided yet.
Oh, okay. Guess what? I think it's going to feature some women. When you talk to thank you, who want to win in Wisconsin. When you talk to the lieutenant governor, tell her we'd like to have her on to talk about the governor yesterday officially setting up that new healthcare workforce task force. Something along those lines. We'd love to.
Oh, and the lieutenant governor is a nurse by trade. This is her bailiwick.
Why she's going to head that up. Thank you, Kristen. Congrats again. Thanks for popping in.
Have a great day, guys.
Have a fun day, Goldie.
Bye.
Coming up next, Jerry Clark will talk about the value of lifelong farm education. You're up north.
To the Shaw, WAUK.
We all have someone we love, like the favorite lyric in our favorite song.
Hello there, Jerry.
Hi, Pat. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, hear you great.
Great.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Very good, thank you. Let me pop you up here full. See, oh yeah, all looks good. Yeah, I just want to make sure. I want Judy to be proud of you when she sees you on TV here.
Sure. Yeah.
Where are you located at? Where are you right now?
I'm based in Chippewa Falls at the Chippewa County Courthouse is where.
Oh, at the courthouse. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
My messy office behind me.
Okay, there we go. All right, well then I think we're all set to go here. So I'm just going to bring the commercial slide back up here. Some commercials are going to run for about 4 more minutes here, and then we'll be ready to go.
That sounds great.
All right, talk to you in a bit.
Sounds good.
And Greg, if you can hear me down there, you can bring the commercials back up anytime.
I've decided that when volunteers come and work during the show, we track their hours. And we then have them select a nonprofit organization, and then a monetary amount of money per hour worked is then donated to that charity.
Anna Maynard, General Manager of Wisconsin Farm Technology Day, she said any event, regardless of its size, that depends on volunteers, going to have to rethink not only how you engage with those volunteers, recruit those volunteers, but also reward those volunteers.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
If you're interested in a rewarding career with a strong Wisconsin company, Rural Mutual Insurance is looking to add to their growing team of successful employees and agents. Apply online today at ruralmutual.com/careers.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
The 35 Under 35 program is a great way to recognize young farmers and ag professionals for all the hard work that they do on sustainability. Through this program, I've really gotten to see a lot of different perspectives on how everybody defines sustainability differently. You're really going to have a great network of people to lean on in the future if you have any questions or any issues that may arise.
WFBF.com. A voice for farmers, vision for agriculture, Wisconsin Farm Bureau.
And tomorrow, somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 farmers from across the state will gather together for Ag Day at the Capitol. It involves not only commodity groups, but also the Wisconsin Farm Bureau Federation. One policy item that they'll be reviewing is their request to provide members with a unique and affordable health coverage plan option that's currently operated by state farm bureaus in 7 other states. According to Jason Mungnaini with the Wisconsin Farm Bureau, it would require Wisconsin to flex some of their regulatory issues around insurance. Our team will be there keeping you posted on advancements. Follow along at MidwestFarmReport.com, Fabulous Farm Babe on Facebook. I'm Farm Director Pam Yankee.
The Shaw, WAUK.
All right, about 30 seconds and we'll get going here.
Sounds good.
Weekdays 10 till noon on The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM.
Just a reminder, you can sign up for our daily newsletter. Head to UpNorthNewsWI.com. Click newsletter in the banner on top of our homepage and stay up to date on some unabashedly Wisconsin news. For many years, I co-anchored the 6 and 10 o'clock news at Channel 13 in Eau Claire. And my co-anchor, Judy Clark, and I, we went to college together at UW Eau Claire. Then our paths diverged for a time and then got back together when we were working at 13. She continues on at 13 now in her, do the math, Pat, 32nd year, I think, or 33rd year there. But this farm kid will never not be proud of her brother Jerry, UW-Madison Extension agriculture educator and associate professor, who has been named one of the 2024 Distinguished Teaching Award recipients across the UW-Madison campus for his work in educational programming and research on agronomy and farm management. And it's that kind of lifelong teaching that is part of the Wisconsin idea and part of why we're really happy to have Jerry here to congratulate him and learn more about his role. Jerry Clark, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Pat. Thank you for the invite.
So let's find out more before I tease you more about family matters. Let's talk about how a humble farm kid from Chippewa County got to winning a distinguished teaching award. How has been your path from Tilden to now?
Yeah, it's been pretty humbling this last week here with the award being announced. I think that's been there's a lot of great extension educators across Wisconsin, and just to be nominated was a great feeling, and then to be selected is even more of a shock, obviously. But yeah, starting being a farm kid on a small dairy farm in again that north of Chippewa Falls and that Tilden Eagle Point area. Always were farming. I mean, we were always around mom and dad and brothers and Judy, and you just did what you had to do to get the job done was kind of the way we operated. Dad always said, don't work. We don't work hard. We just work steady. That was the kind of thing. So we always had that work ethic behind us. And when I was at UW River Falls as an undergrad in ag education, then my advisor at the time, Dr. Dick Jensen, when we did student teaching out in the field, he observed me and things like that. And he knew my background and the way I presented myself. And he said, you'd be a great extension agent. And I didn't give it a thought. My job, I thought I'll get my degree, go back to the farm and help out. So we did try that for a few years. Of course, small farms with several families to support, it wasn't going to work from an economic standpoint. So the position with Chippewa County was open about that time. We were wondering if we're going to stay in farming or what we should do. And so then we took a stab at this job, and it was Dr. Jensen was right. Yeah, I love it. It was a good fit. Luckily, Chippewa County, county board hired me, and it's been kind of a roller coaster. There's been times where budget, obviously between the federal, state, and local level kind of is a concern, but you kind of you float along and roll with what comes your way. And I think that's the way I've approached my job has been what needs to be done. What's the issues out there? What are farmers dealing with? Is there a gap in some local research that we can do? Or is there just some educational programming, whether it's drought or safety or something that comes along within the agricultural industry? Is it high prices, low prices, those kind of things on the farm management side? So we've always tried to, what's the issue that needs to be addressed and what's emerging out there? Can we be ahead of the curve on a few things and try to bring that information to the people of Chippewa County?
It's interesting when you talk about the kind of the self-reliance aspect of it, the work ethic. As somebody who also married into a dairy farm family, that same ethic of, well, I've got a problem here, and chances are I'm going to have to figure it out myself. Why did the tractor stop working, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But obviously there's always circumstances where you do need to be welcoming to help and assistance from the outside. Has that been a challenge in your role of working with producers and getting pushback of like, oh, don't worry, I'll figure this out myself. I don't need you. I don't need the government. I don't need help. Or do you find that it's much more collaborative out there and much more welcoming of learning new things?
Yeah, I think it's that, Pat, is that collaborative. One nice thing about Extension is we are education and information. That on-farm research or local research, or taking what the UW Madison researchers are finding and then applying that out in the field. So our applied research, I think, goes a long way from that standpoint. But I think we learn from each other. A lot of issues that we deal with, whether it's, especially for one right now, is the groundwater quality. We've got nitrates in the groundwater. How can we're dealing more with manure management, nitrogen management, fertilizers on the fields, and these kind of things. And how can we make sure that farmers are being profitable, but also protecting that environment at the same time? So I think when you get into topics like that, there always becomes that you're not an expert in that. So one nice thing with UW or with the Extension Service being connected with UW Madison, and also River Falls and Platteville also have specialists. We lean on them pretty heavily. So you've got these world-class researchers on campuses here in Wisconsin as a great resource that are part of Extension. And so we're able to bring that to the people out here in the counties, and now being, covering Eau Claire and Dunn County, as well as Chippewa. That's, it just broadens that reach that we can have, or maybe the issues that we need to deal with from an educational standpoint. So we've always been kind of a needs-based, reactive organization. What's happening out on the borders of the state? That's the Wisconsin idea. Take the university to the people. And that's what we've tried to do. And personally, for me, that's where I've tried to hang my hat, is what do farmers need today or tomorrow if some issue changes. One thing, we've seen the industry and developments within how agriculture, it was small farm dairy, and now we're becoming, much more global. We have many farms that are selling products, or if it's genetics or whatever it is, across the world. And so how do we help, a local business or a farmer, make sure that they're vibrant and being able to have the answers that they need, whether it's from me or if they contact me and I said, that's not my world of expertise at all. So let's pull in a researcher or an expert from the campuses.
Well, just looking at this summary of what you work on, summary isn't the right word because it goes on for a while. Alternative crops, forages, nutrient management, responding to new agricultural markets, including craft brewing operations revolving around malting barley and growing hops, industrial hemp production, infusing technology such as the use of smartphones to identify and manage weeds, diseases, insects, and nutrient deficiencies that can affect corn, soybeans, and alfalfa. But then the cherry on top is you're also a podcaster. You are host of the UW Extension's Cutting Edge podcast, dedicated to providing resources for new crops. You're a podcaster. How did that get started?
Well, that goes back to growing up with Judy, obviously, right? She had
There's always a connection to Judy.
There's always a connection with Judy. But that was just something that came out of being working from home with the whole COVID-19 situation. So when we were kind of limited in, obviously kind of prohibited from pulling large groups together for meetings and getting our information out. So a few of us said, let's look at doing a podcast related to some of these emerging crops that are being developed. And since we can't gather together, let's try this podcast thing. So this was a team effort with a number of county educators and a specialist or two from around the state. And we were able to, very easily pull. And one thing with podcasting, especially, you can pull specialists from around the country. So we were just basically looking at different crops that are emerging or that could grow here in Wisconsin. And we had already done quite a bit, like you said, with the malting barley and hops, kind of that raw ingredient for the brewing industry, local craft brewing industry. And then as industrial hemp became legalized, is there an interest in that? And then also some of the other, one that popped up was saffron. And I was reading an article from the University of Vermont about growing saffron, and talking to their specialists at the University of Vermont, said, would you mind doing a podcast? And they're like, yeah, we'd great for that. And here there was a grower in the Green Bay area that's doing it. And so these are the kind of things that we can make that connection across the country, and podcasting was a nice way to do that. So many of us, we do a lot of presentations, and of course teaching is what we do, and outreach. And podcasting just opened up another avenue for us. There was other educators, extension educators and specialists doing that in another vein or so earlier, but having to work from home and kind of reinvent ourselves as how we're going to deliver this educational information was the one way that we thought we can get our message out, and it's there, can be recorded, and people can access it whenever. And I think we've had over, I don't know, I think we're maybe approaching 5,000 downloads and things like that with our series that's out there.
Okay. How is the role changing for the extension as we do make that generational shift from family farming to large family farm operations to, essentially corporate, industrial type farms? And if it's run by a corporation, which may have their own research arm and things like that, will there be less of a role for UW Extension? And I guess to make it an even sharper question, should there be a reduced role? If these are corporate owned farms, should they just take care of their own research rather than, taxpayer funded resources?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great question, Pat. And so trying to stay relevant, I think, on everybody's mind, regardless if you're a public entity or private. But Extension is unique in that we were always an informational educational arm. So the information part, the internet's out there, and larger farms have more consultants and things like that. But we find maybe if the larger farm isn't using Extension, their consultants probably are in some arm, whether it's through a specialist or a local county office. But I think where we're still a very viable organization out there are these things that are related to safety, are related to policy types of things, whether that's getting information out about the new farm bill that might be coming up. Who's doing that? These kind of things that, there's still that need out there that a private company or a larger farm may say, well, we already got our consultants to do that. But there's certain things that, especially on the farm management and production side of things, like this nitrogen issue that we're dealing with. Farms could, and we encourage farms to do their own research on that. Put your own side-by-side trials out and try to figure out exactly where that fertilizer application needs to be. And as we get new genetics within corn production or cattle or things like that, is there a change in the way we grow our feed and feed our feed to these animals? So there's always that unbiased part to the UW that here's the data we found, and here's where we think that recommendation needs to be. So I think in terms of those types of things where a private company or a larger farm that may have its large resources, there's always that unbiased connection, unbiased part that we can bring to the table that says, here's what we found doing this research this way. And that's where we develop the educational programs coming out of that research.
Well, on top of that, it establishes what I would consider to be a baseline for Wisconsin's natural resources, that what may be best for a corporate bottom line is not necessarily the practice that is best for Wisconsin's environment. So I hope that there continues to be an ongoing extension role for that reason, among many others. Jerry's one of 13 faculty members who is being honored with this year's Distinguished Teaching Awards, an award given out since 1953 to recognize some of the university's finest educators. The ceremony will take place on April 16th in the Great Hall of the Memorial Union to honor Jerry and all the recipients. And near as I can tell, Jerry, there is still a little white space left on that wall behind you for one more award. So I think it appears to be a well-earned among many that you've received over the years, Jerry. Thank you so much for being a part of this and for letting us know about all the valuable services you provide. Congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pat, and greatly appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
All right. And tell Judy I said hi.
Will do. We'll do that.
It's a running joke. It was a running joke all through my years in the legislature. Everybody would be like, tell Judy I said hi. Sure, tell Judy. Long before Charlie Barron's was doing it, we were doing it. Tell Judy I said hi.
She's well known.
She's the best. Thanks, Jerry.
All right,
we will
thanks
be back with Chad Holmes in just a moment. You're up north.
And your doubts will starve to death. The little boy followed the honeybee.
WAUK.
This is Chuck Smith, founder of Current Electric. I want to thank you, Southeast Wisconsin, for making us #1 electrical service company in our area. From residential and commercial to all things solar. Do you know the number one reason?
How you sounding over there, Mr. Holmes?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you, and it sounds like you have a voice, so that's good.
Getting better, getting better.
All righty, good deal.
My journey through the desert.
Yes.
On a horse with no name.
Yes. All righty. Let's see.
Back in 3 seconds.
Okay. I'm gonna start by asking you about high school mascots. So we're gonna.
I have a comment about Greg first.
Oh, good. Even better. Chad Holmes coming up in just a second, including the full show at 8 o'clock on Bull Falls Radio in the Wausau area. But first, a reminder that for the next 3 days during the 7 o'clock hour, you can hear from different candidates running for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District. We'll start with State Representative Katrina Shanklin tomorrow at 7:05, Rebecca Cook Thursday at 7:05, Eric Wilson Friday at 7:05, and each of them hopes to be the eventual Democratic nominee to run against Republican incumbent Derek Van Orden here in the 3rd District. So stay tuned for those interviews again starting tomorrow morning here on Up North News Radio. Chad Holmes joins us now from Bull Falls Radio, where he covers many high school sports. And so we'll come off of the discussion with Dr. Lyerly about mascots in just a moment. But Chad, how's your voice, first of all? And I understand you got a message for Greg as well.
What? Voice is getting better.
Good.
Slowly but surely getting better. I was listening earlier at the top of the hour when you guys were talking about Greg not being aware of jump around. I think that is fantastic, to be honest with you. And you know why?
Why do you say that? Why?
Because the idea, and I mean, just Sunday, I just saw a story that said there was like 60 million people that watched the NFC Championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and I understand that it's great to have something that everybody can sort of coalesce around, and sports tends to be that. But sometimes it's good where I feel like sometimes we get way too involved in it. And sometimes it's like, it's great that somebody has enough interest outside of jump around to be unaware of it here in the state of Wisconsin. So
Greg
I say,
Bach, he has
Greg
a
Bach.
life. Congratulations on having a life, Greg Bach.
Oh yeah, my life is just swimming with things. just
well,
I don't have time to jump around with you peasants.
Yes. No, good for you. Yes. Not everybody has to be completely plugged into all things cultural, but it just means you're not cool. That's all. That's so enjoy that.
You heard it here first. Pat Kreitlow called me not cool.
Pot, kettle, black. Chad, obviously college mascots are downright legendary. They're in commercials now and everything else. But what do you notice in terms of high schools? How many of them have like a person that wears a suit? Is that prevalent? Is it rare? What's it like out there these days when you're at the football and basketball games?
It's funny. Tonight I'm doing a game between Newman Catholic and Marathon. They're actually 2 of the 3 teams that we cover on a regular basis, so I get to double dip, which is nice. And I was privy to a conversation that they're having a special tonight over at Newman where they're going to try to, and I know this is down Greg's alley, steal the sausage races over at American Family Field.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the Newman Cardinal, the Fighting Cardinal. They have a Fighting Cardinal outfit, and from time to time, they do put somebody in the Fighting Cardinal outfit, and they're going to race around the court against a couple of hot dogs. So they do have the actual Fighting Cardinal, and they will be there tonight at the game. I have seen at DC Everest, where I went to school, that once in a while somebody actually gets into an evergreen costume. Wausau West does have a warrior costume. So I have seen quite a few actually
Let's come back to the hot dogs for a minute. Are these hot dog costumes that
I have
people
no idea. This is a first.
Okay, all right.
It's going to be the first time.
When you go, it's like when you go to New York and you don't see Iron Man, you see Steel Fighter of Justice.
Yes. This is not actually one of the racing sausages.
To seeing this tonight.
You should be. This sounds very intriguing.
I don't think it should be called the Fighting Cardinal unless they actually get into a fight. Like,
well,
against
you
a hot
never
dog.
know.
Yeah, it is officially the Fighting Cardinal. So they better, if they better go up against that hot dog with all the fierceness that a Fighting Cardinal would have.
The Fighting Cardinals. That's going to be fun. Oh man, how are things? With all the sports you're covering, a good typical year. Anybody having especially breakout seasons? Either a team or a person.
Well, the teams that we're covering, the Marathon boys are the best. They've only lost one game, and I think they're a great contender to make the state tournament. Another area team is Mosinee, and I can smoothly go into my promo because tomorrow night on our big high school sports show, I will have the head boys basketball coach of Mosinee, who is 14-2, Matt Lindsay, and also the star player for the Marathon Red Raider boys, Grant Warren, at 7:00. So tomorrow night, a couple of really successful people will be our guest on the big high school sports show. But I got to tell you, last night was some nights you can just carry yourself right through the finish line. It's such an easy night. When the team that you're covering has a really bad start, and the other squad, who is a great team, who's having a terrific season, who has a young lady who shoots NBA range 3-pointers, hits 7 of 8 in the first half, and you look up and it's 22-0.
Oh,
it's like, all right, time to fill.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
22-0. It's like, this is gonna be a long one.
But again, you have that freedom to chat about other things rather than just hammering away at the dominance. And I think specifically for me, I was living in the Twin Cities when the Minnesota Timberwolves were a brand new franchise. And they were just hapless for those first few seasons. They almost could have gone 0-82, on the season. But their play-by-play guy at the time was a young Kevin Harlan. And I and a lot of other people tuned in, not because we were basketball fans, but because while the Timberwolves were busy getting blown out, he's telling stories and he's doing basically interviews in game, with people, because there's really not much to say about the game. And he was hilarious. I mean, he's still I think he's doing football on CBS right now, but that bit of artistic license that you get when there's a blowout one way or the other, it's an avenue for creativity that I'm sure you're taking full advantage of when it comes up.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that grew up in this state had the master, Bob Euchre,
who
was, it doesn't matter what the score was, he was going to be able to weave a tale and keep you involved in the game right to the final out. So I was at the needs of the master as a youngster, and I've taken some of the lessons. In those situations, definitely be able to use a little bit of a different set of tools in terms of the broadcast.
And that there are listeners out there who really appreciate it. For every say parent that's out there that says, "Hey, get back to the game, talk about my kid." There's others out there going, "This is great. It doesn't have to be just up and down the court. It can be weaving some stories in." So good on you. That's great. So, for more of Chad's stories, tune into his show on Bull Falls Radio, starting shortly here on the Civic Media Radio Network on Bull Falls Radio in the Wausau, or on the Civic Media app. Glad you're sounding better, feeling good. Good to talk to you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Pat. You too.
All right. Greg's going to go YouTube jump around and learn a bit more about that before
I've got my homework.
He's got his homework ready to go. And I get to thank the rest of you for being part of our day, part of our Tuesday here on Up North News Radio. Back again tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Have a great Tuesday.